cái trang cái gì là lim cái lá đi hạ đàn chứ lim cái đi không gì đâu hết tôi hay cái kia đấy tại Donald Trump Tower cái gì đấy nè ai lim tập bị cái lá như thế là điểm lâu cho mi cái cầu gì mi cái lá sao gì nè ai bảo ngã khó cái sao lâu bị cái đấy cái lá này cái đấy cái cầu gì cái lá sao gì chứ anh muốn núp lâu rồi ấy hạ bên nông thì là làm sao oh sorry chú cô hiện nè kile pa chai ko na chai ki kilen tin aban le chai pa na kile chai le mun nom ta na pha ka man ke ding ka chang se ka hin num na khat hi ka kinwa yang la gang cha ka chile hi jeng na ka kinwa anup dan hi changa chile chu hin sai ka lang mi le hin choi delivery bolo khat he maybe na mấy thì cho ai bạn kia thì lâu hình nè chưa hiện nói mi họ he mi họ thì mix vậy, tại sao cái lung cái mai ở India tiếng tiếng à India họ tiếng tiếng à phải cái lề tiếng,คนละเขาไปก็พาที่เห็นบันเลยของกิเลสเรื่องบันเลย parking ก็จะได้สลังว่าเขาไปก็พาจะย่อไอ้ช่วงนั้นก็เห็นtiếng là nộp tiếng na building họ sang thế vào là photo nó kết gì đâu tiếng na tao anh bỏ gì ngay tiếng có chỉ phê ai là hoa này mẹ đánh cái gì không thì cái tụ đi hay mi tao nhá come on 26 hôm nay 24 23 22 21 mi tầm đàn chứ gambit number gate hồn biết hồn kim nhẹ bằng gì ngay chú hiền cái hít đeo lầu thân à sai bị hụt cái xì la sát vàng cái xì thâu thâu à con bà lại là cái thế chú hiền Chicago downtown bên nôm họ đi ngà video cái lại hiện vlog cái lại hiện subscribe hình bolo bên lăng share hình bolo bên tam pp subscribe hình bolo bên lăng hình vô Donald Trump Tower hay chứ Donald Trump Tower hay chứ cái car hay mong cần tháp bạc để con cái tháp bạc cái đó này cái pa chứ Trump cái gì hơn à chứ Donald Trump Tower hi na ma hin mun tin kam chen hin tower ne in India azong Pune Mumbai Kolkata ne jin so that most of the country are here ma Trump Tower ne in na to hi bola ke tola ka chiding hi in chukhu hi in nom ma zing he wa nga bona kong ke tol ma se pending aban le sai pi khup he chive bo cookie pon to Chicago bona kong ke tol le ding tour cái hình bò đây hiện cho hi hồi nào cái loại đi bởi ticket hiện si basement ai power Mr. Power chú hiện là video ticket hi cái loại đi ticket ahead okay ticket hi mai là ngon để đan hiện ticket cái loại đi các bạn lệ công tổ đi ngay hiện bộ na hiện nôm ta bộ na công tổ đi mà lệ sao ta cần bộ link video hỏi ta cần là đến ngay hiện tuyên ticket ngạo tiến win we get a ticket here
Yeah.
you guys are on the line
Yeah, we're in line.
oh nổ mẹ có tôi thì cái đó cái cả lẽ cái cả trái là không tàu điên bạn là tour can boarding hiện cái gì tàu vin tàu điên in wow cái thang nó mình càng ngã lên I am so excited to sit there and travel around and look around all the buildings, all those beautiful buildings. So tôi hi cái lút tàu viên tôi hi công liền pan đi ngồi hiện hi thank you wow nộp đó chứ. Ô xuống chú xuống à không là chúng là cái gì đấy à xuống là cái tàu nôm vậy. Yeah nộp tờ vé bắt cay nôm vào đây chú yên con cái tàu lên ngồi hình cái tàu nôm lầu cho. Hi, can I sit here? Can I sit here?
Yeah.
Thank you. Chua, nom tay cái tàu ta in, chỉ cái ticket in cái kia lạ tay in, nom tay cái tàu ta in. So hồi là party họ khác in, nhiều xem video lại in. Cho họ party khác in, cho party nhiều tàu dùng này lâu na. Sila hi inu le pa ki puido en line sunga ta ki leng la chanok de dan chu chu hi en ano momo nge lampi lang ho sana sat banga chlai kong lu to le dap cho e si ninga trai tele banga da adap dan Michigan Avenue en ten trai kong len le dingo kan Donald Trump building chu na chu tower chu hian trai pa na yo phalang hoi tang ki modi hen building mai he bo na kong len dingo kong thai le dingo ta kan sa dingo hin ten cái số hay gì cho hiện Donald Trump building tower cái hiện chi cái hiện nôm cái sao mong nghe gì em poi nôm cái sao mong nghe bye cái bộ cho cái responsible là responsible cái mấy bộ hệ tham một thế nào về Trump Tower hiện hết khu Donald Trump Tower hiện hết chi nêu khẩn xây chín leng hết chi 2003 cái sapana 2009 à cái chai hiện asan dan he hiya le sang khat le jathum le somgel le get fit a sang hiện Indian he floor he 98 somgel le somko le get Indian hiện floor abana sumki silut za he hiya le 847 million in Indian sumachu 84 crore kismang in 84 something crore kismang hi Donald Trump tower kisana hi ama hin epi lunggel nei hamla kai po in ama hin muntina hin Trump tower kiti hi anei in India zong Pune Mumbai Kolkata amin abana Doha Qatar Philippines California Los Angeles ti ho jang aumin chi hi le Chicago a chama tower hi na Donald Trump US President Louis Pa tower chu hi in epi plan ala ka hepo in muntina he main chi tower hi nei so ke he all over the world hi atam zo a hi country a hema hi cha tower hi ki tun he sumyang hi wala hoi lai kila am ke poi sang mong he som ko le ge na floor he kyo hi mi dimang ngawi de dan ten anoi langa khabe tour kan bole cho anoi lang hotel khabe tour kan bole cho lakum su ung ting anoi ai hotel he yana khabe tour kan bole cho sorry che anoi yana tel ki cho na ma le ki cho the hai thile ne na ma le ke ne the hin na cho anoi hin am nan je thil hon ne na ma cool tan in ngana tan na jing the na chu ko hi nom ta ngana tan na jing the a hi in chu ko pam lang hi chi sunga hi na anom me awanga chu sunga hi mi khala ke hin da sunga ki nom lo achung lang ma ke to nom he chu hi en neo kan da sa hi en tai ti mi kung ta bang hat au nge chi chị yên tu yên chung lang cái lỗ cái để ta cho anh nuông vào riêng nghe ở chung lang tàu độ cái tay wow chưa sung hơn á sa amin nupta at sila ni dong nung tawa zinu tawa ta ko in ko man he eh sila nga isang kibali lewa nga sa chuhin anom bali.
Everyone, can you guys hear me okay up here? Thumbs up. Thank you for the soundtrack. Welcome aboard Chicago's Fair Lady. Thanks for joining us in this beautiful Chicago afternoon here. I don't know if we got the sun, but
wow.
So we don't get the sun around here very often.
Wow. Anom te te ve. In ka chinom te.
Oh, that's San Diego, of course. Well, yeah.
In ka chinom te poi.
Go crazy over one cloud in the sky. Jeez, no, thank you for bringing the sun.
Wow,
welcome aboard Chicago's Fair Lady. My name is Jose. I'll be the captain for the next 90 minutes of the tour. I just have some announcements to make regarding your safety and convenience.
Whoa.
But before we get started here, how's
Song
it?
kisep leong. Good.
Good. It's a woo ride. First one. All right.
Hey, bye bye.
U.S. Coast Guard licensed and inspected passenger vessel. That pretty much means we have all the necessary life-saving equipment on board, one of which are life jackets.
Oh, ball, football.
Life jackets.
1, 2.
In the unlikely event of an emergency, a uniformed crew member will instruct you on how to properly use those. But we're just going to leave more than that for now. A few house rules before we get started here. There's absolutely no standing on chairs for any reason. Also, smoking or vaping is not allowed on Chicago's Fair Lady, so please save that for 90 minutes. And your cell phones, if you could kindly put them on silent or vibrate up here. If you wish to make a call or take a call, or have an extended conversation with fellow passengers.
So time 90 minutes 45 minutes
Also, we'll be going under several low bridges, very low clearance. One good example.
Facade among the low, dark, dingy warehouses and factory buildings that surrounded it. William Wrigley was a natural born salesman, and when he wanted to build a headquarters for his chewing gum empire, he wanted the building itself to serve as a dramatic advertisement for his chewing gum, and he was definitely on the left-hand side is another neoclassical building. You see that row of columns and that very ornate open temple at the top of it. This is now a hotel, London House, Chicago. But this building was originally the headquarters for the London Shipping and Accident Company. They were an insurance company for shipping, for international shipping. So they used this neoclassical style of architecture very purposefully to convey a sense of permanence and stability, which is very important when you're trying to get people to buy insurance from you. If you're looking for a place to go after the cruise, I highly recommend the rooftop bar that's on the 23rd floor of the London House. It has a beautiful view directly down the river behind me, in front of you. You can go up there afterwards and hang out on the 23rd floor. Alright, I'm going to drive home neoclassical architecture for you. If you'll continue on the left-hand side of the boat around the curve, there's another light brown building with a central dome tower in the middle of it and some dome structures about part way up. This building is from 1926. And it was designed by Yevert and Dinkelberg to solve a very specific problem. And that was for jewelers in Chicago. Jewelers would carry a lot of valuable merchandise in their cars, and it was unsafe to unload at street level. So this building contained elevators to take the jewelers up to their offices, their jewelers' cars up to their offices. And then those smaller dome structures housed water tanks to serve as emergency sources of water in case of fire. Very important in a city that was once decimated by fire, and we will talk about the Chicago fire a little later on. On the left-hand side, there is a dark steel and glass rectangle, and just beyond it, or I'm sorry, on the right-hand side, a dark steel and glass rectangle and a pair of concrete load corn glass. I just want to touch on a contrasting architectural style. We can see neoclassical buildings. They have a modern steel structure underneath them, but they're all covered up by that beautiful terracotta or sometimes beautiful Indiana limestone. You can see these buildings are a modernist architectural style. They don't use any sort of covering of the structural elements. Modernist architects believed that less is more, and they wanted to strip away any extraneous decoration to allow the structural materials that hold the building up to take center stage. And I'm going to talk more about these very iconic buildings on our skyline when we come back. But I'd like to touch on the idea of modernist architecture before I introduce the next architectural style in the series, which is postmodernist architecture.
parking dan chỗ chia hàng chỗ hệ hàng á chúng ta này parking dan chúng ta có ba beri lang gari geng ada yang
This building is an excellent example of postmodernists. Postmodernists disagreed. They did not think that less is more the way the modernist architectures did. They thought less is a bore, and they returned to exuberant decorations of their buildings. And sometimes the buildings were a nod to ancient buildings or historical buildings. So as we come out from underneath this bridge, if you'll look directly to the left, you'll have a great view.
Sumaha model dan no, dia jang tu betul ni kat for $52 kapi jo.
Architects had to solve a problem or a challenge that was created by a new building ordinance in Chicago in the early 1920s. Those building ordinances removed height limits. You could now build the curve of the river here, and that beautiful rippling green glass is a nod to the rippling green surface of the river itself. What I really love about this building, though, was when it was built, it was kind of the edge of the high-rise area of Chicago, and it didn't have any buildings to reflect in its facade. But now that all these contemporary building complex here on the left-hand side, this is River Cottages, completed in 1988, with those round porthole windows and triangular sail-shaped roof panels. You can tell that Harry Louis was a fan of sailing. And in fact, his favorite shape was the triangle, and he incorporated them whenever he could in his building's design. So try to remember the name Harry Weiss, because we'll come back to it just a little bit. So I mentioned how polluted the Chicago River was for many, many, many decades. So the condition of the river was a problem that architects had to solve for when they were designing buildings along the river. So on the right-hand side, you have this long horizontal building with the blue triangular rooftops. This is the hip East Bank Club. When it was built as an athletic club in the 1970s, there was not a single window in this wall. They purposefully designed this building to present a solid stone wall towards the river because nobody wanted to play racquetball or run on a treadmill and look at the mess that the Chicago River was through the knee-deep mud of the Chicago Portage. And you're like, if we just dig a canal here, it would revolutionize transportation of people and goods because we would be connecting entirely by water the population and manufacturing centers of the eastern seaboard with what was then the western frontier along the Mississippi River. In the mid-1800s, the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, and the federal government finally got serious about figuring out how to fund and build this canal. And when word got out, people flocked to the city of Chicago. A mad land rush was on. People were coming to make money, buying and selling pieces of land for crazy inflated prices. As all those people, we quite literally, and this is no exaggeration, we quite literally became the fastest growing city the world had ever seen. And along with that fast population growth, we started to suffer from outbreaks of diseases like cholera, typhoid, and so many hundreds of thousands of people were dying from these disease outbreaks that it really threatened the viability of the city because who wants to move here if you might die from one of these disease outbreaks? So the powers that be in the city got serious about figuring out the problem. All right, let's get back to contemporary architecture. So directly in front of the boat, a little to the left of the front of the boat, is a narrow silver rectangular structure.
Bank of America.
3 different heights at the top of it. This is 150 North Riverside, one of my favorite buildings
Bank of America.
On the river tour. Transfer the load of the wider section of the building into that narrow foundation that they were able to drop in and among those active railroad tracks. I like to say this building looks like it's standing on its toes. And just like anybody trying to maintain their balance on their toes, you're going to sway And in the case of tall buildings, they sway because of the force of the winds blowing on the side of it. And that is a problem. On the left-hand side, there's another similar contemporary building. This one has serrated edges that draw your eye skyward. This is the Bank of America Tower, also designed by our friends at Getz Partners. And this building was completed in 2020. Those serrated edges are designed to compensate for a very challenging building site. This building site is narrow at our end, and it gets wider at the far end. So those serrated edges allow the footprint of the building to step out to maximize the square footage of the building on the spot. It also provides for lots and lots of corner offices in contrast to the Montgomery Ward building that we saw earlier. And we all know bankers like to get promoted into a corner office. And I love this detail that Getz Partners did at the bottom, where they consolidated the 9
Tungol ki gota building walang lang ay puyo tam za chom ke tuya ta ka bal la ka ban bet le ka gam ta point kom na ka hai ke ta in ai bang king aba le kilometer ka mu la
and in the 1920s,
ka phone na battery 20% of min GoPro 37% of min ai bang kar ka chi pa le ka ki charge ki the hin phone chuna.
So part of the building had to be knocked down in order to
sort vào tay ka to sort vào tay cái gì đấy cái nó da cái
so when we come up
cái liều tới lấy kilo mẹ
you'll see the
cái liều ta về
symmetrical
còn chôm lên hai cái phao vào
5 bays on the left side of the clock tower and there are 6 bays on the right side. So we're permanently reminded about how nothing is static in a big city. Off to the left-hand side, just shining in the setting sun, is a narrow green tower with gold leaf on the top of it. That's actually gold leaf decorating the top there. This is Henry Chicago. It was originally the headquarters for the carbon turbine building. And if it reminds you of the champagne bottle, it was inspired by a blue champagne bottle with that gold foil cap on the top of it. We're going to go back to the left side of the boat, and we are going to talk about that concrete corncup structure. One, the other one will come to you in just a minute. This is Marina's. And if it reminds you of that boat, it was designed also by Bertha Goldberg. And when Florida City was in development in the 50s and 60s, nobody wanted to live here. People were downtown areas throughout the United States to take up residence in the sprawling suburbs that were growing up at the time. But Bertha Goldberg truly believed in urban living. He believes we live better when we live close together. So he designed this site with 4 buildings to provide kind of a safe city within a city. There was an office building, there was a fitness center, there was a grocery store, there was an ice skating rink. Obviously, you have these lovely
chỉ cần phao thì ta con kia liều và con kia liều tại in cái chế điều tại in nô min cái sai in tuổi thì in cái chế là kia liều đấy cho bằng thân ông này sẽ là cái đấy nè thân ông này bằng in có in
he was really again
cái tôi thấy số sao mà music cái thao tôi mi biểu tạo dùng lại tôi cho nó hay nôm cái sai nôm mà riêng cái phao cái sai tại tôi hay cái chỉ vào tại tôi nhà cái say ai bạn này phát âm này chỉ nên cần cái hội cái hiện tiền hôm nay công ty làm video tiền na thì cần
Neoclassical architecture design, and as you can see from the Modernist AMA Plaza here on the left-hand side, even in the 1930s, Stan Row was dreaming of buildings that look like this, so certainly not neoclassical. We benefited. He relocated here to Chicago and revolutionized how we build tall buildings with his less is more mantra. Whoa. He also was the head of the architecture school at what we now call the Illinois Institute of Technology here in Chicago. So there will never be another building blocking the residents' view of the lake, which is what the developer had in mind from the get-go. On the left-hand side, you'll also see a Ferris wheel. That Ferris wheel sits on Navy Pier. Navy Pier was completed in 1916 by Charles Ross. It was the longest pier in the world, and we needed the longest pier because our lake is very shallow. So it had to extend way out in order to offload cargo and load cargo here out on the lake. We were trying to alleviate the congestion of the Chicago River port. In the 1940s, the U.S. Navy took over Navy Pier, and they used it to train naval aviators to learn how to take off and land for those newfangled things we called aircraft carriers that were developed to fight World War II. Navy Pier has been brought back to life as the recreational mecca. There's lots of restaurants out there. There's a children's museum, that beautiful Ferris wheel. There's even the Chicago Shakespeare theaters out there. It actually looks like the Globe Theater on the inside of it. That Ferris wheel is a nod to the very first Ferris wheel that was built for that World's Fair that I mentioned here in Chicago in 1893. Our World's Fair was right after the Paris World's Fair, where the Eiffel Tower was built for. So Daniel Burnham wanted something to out-Eiffel Eiffel, and George Ferris came up with the idea of a Ferris wheel. This Ferris wheel is about 15 stories tall. It's less than half the height of the original Ferris wheel. So if you can imagine people coming in, farmers coming in, immigrants coming to the city for the day, and they've stepped into a car that was about the size of a modern subway car and get lifted 300 feet into the sky. We literally blew their minds, and the Ferris wheel was a big reason of why our World's Fair was so successful. Off to the right-hand side of the boat, you'll see that metal gate. That is a lock that encloses the current mouth of the Chicago River, and that lock was built as the solution to a monsoon. So when we reversed the flow of the Chicago River, our neighboring states, Wisconsin and Michigan, were concerned that we were diverting entirely too much water out of the lake and it would affect lake quality. So they sued. This time they won. And we had to install that lake so that now we control how much water we divert, and it's at about a third of the original. Feel free to keep walking around taking pictures. I'm just going to start talking about a couple things coming up. If you look to the right-hand side of the boat, you'll see this little kind of grassy park area, and then on the far side of Lakeshore Drive, you'll see the yellow construction crane. We are so excited to see construction starting on this site, and part of the buildings are going to include the development of this park area. It's going to be called DuSable Park, and it'll finish the Riverwalk on this side of the river all the way out to this park. The construction crane is sitting on what was the site of the Chicago Spire. When the Chicago Spire was originally envisioned back in the mid-2000s, it was going to be the tallest building in the world when it started construction at the time. It was this glorious shades. So it's a darker shade of blue at the narrow waist of the buildings to reduce the amount of heat that's absorbed by the sun on the smaller floors. And then the glass gradually gets lighter at the wider shoulder sections of the building where you can allow for additional heat to come in. The glass is a very special non-reflective glass to reduce bird collisions, because again, we do sit on an important bird migration path.
The parking here only 2 hours ahead. 2 hours move to minutes so हम कलेट रहता है. कभी अन्यम नलाय हम अन्यम लोग हम क्या कोई. चीज़ अच्छी कदल थोड़े हैं. एक चलना है parking आगे याले गाड़ी पोलो यू ना. तो बहुत सी बात का डिप चाहे तो है कदल थोड़े. Anum di nam kagari na. Kitsayin. Tu hi kagari ka parking ka jut di hen kagari ka liat phana hai ka dip sa enten dem lo dem na. Pung kaisun 45 minutes pa ka to kai sa le 190 minutes pa ni hin den chu. cái tàu nông lộ vậy bạn cái cả kia là cho ai bạn first experience ya khó lâu nè mà chỉ là cái parking bay bùi chỗ cái bùi ya chỉ đi đó tua hi cái lần lệ cái chỉ đến charging cái ball đến bạn lệ tua bằng hi vạt thế này lại phải cái này là lại à nông cái sai cái xin âm hi bây giờ này chưa hiện tua cái chỉ này cái mà cái kết lại thì ai bảo ngã chứผมได้กระทรวงแค่ปล่อยการีตมาตั้มกินอะไรติวอินเทนน่ะช่วยเห็นปาร์กิ้งมาหาว่าเลยจังตัวเองก็ชินาก็ให้กิจโจก็ชินาก็ให้กิจอามาเนี่ยสาวิงนะก็ชินันก็ให้กิจกับการีปักน้ำมันจะมีอะไรเชียวเว้ย呀，cái hay tạ bê đây here có vàng phải cái mobile đi cái mobile bên trên tôi here Selain kat siapa bana kat siapa cái gì ta họ thấy tới đi cái vật để cho trên cái game cái điểm chọn chọn niệm này 2 hours đi ngapa parking cái bộ gì chứ chỉ là ngã ticket cái cả hiệu phân à chứ nè cái gì khó cho chúจะquay màn hoa màn lâu nay vắng á chú red light họ tập bằng green light họ tập bằng chỉ là vài mình ta chú hoa này miệt đàn gì nè chú hiểu chú hình cái cái lồng khăm là chú hiểu là cái gari hi pung nia tiếng bảo ticket cái lạ hay á pung nia là mình xong cái đấy ta chỉ là hay mình khăn này này mình nhìn này này vắng cái vắng phải cái gari niệm này cái này cái tổ lợn cái đám măng kề đấy à bạn xin riêng hello cảm ơn thầy thế bạn xin riêng hello cảm ơn thầy thế cái gì mà in tên để cho busy đàn chưa map trang cái hall mà hiện tên ta bằng muốn nộp bằng à parking hồ hạ baเลยphảiตัวเราเบี้ยกับหมดเลยchoกับ parking apaก็ของดอกกันนะปุ่งนี้เห็นปัญหาจะมินนะ timing ถึงใต้แต่อินเทนบานาปาอินก็งาถั่วปัญหาจะของดอกอินเทนแล้วใต้ parking ก็หมู่กิอยู่ฮะปุ่งเลียเบี้ยจะปุ่งท้องจะกินอะไรพอดีฮะตัวให้ใต้กับหมดเลยก็แบบนึงก็เลยมั่งเกยนึงเอาใส่ที่มา parking เดียวมาแล้วของจริงอ่ะเดี๋ยวของบ้านแล้วของเลียเลยกินยังไงอ่องก็กิเลสตัวเฮก็ว่าจิ้มเสนาก็จิ้มเดี๋ยวตัวกิเลสก็ชิเห็นอาจจะว่าชิโบนาก็เราจะโจคุยเห็นตัวเฮก็กิเลสพาดตาเองอาจจะ traffic ก็จะมีอาจจะ45 minutes ปีบางให้ปุ่งนี่ถึงที่จะก็จอดได้เสียนจะอาจจะก็กินมาเลยเห็นจะว่าโบนาก็จะเคยเห็นนะ building สร้างต่างๆจะเคยเห็นตัวไอ้แบบ traffic กี่ปันกี่ตาจ้ะก็กี่ปันกี่ตานะ traffic เลยจะเด่นเด่นที่อาชื่อเชลซ่าชื่อ traffic โลเฮียจะยังไง traffic โลโหโลอ่ะโบนำโอเคaku gari dim jingna this is me ก็ได้อย่า subscribe ในบอลเตดิวบอลเตดิวไอ้เฮ้ยอ่อง这变成不得野了样子，traffic 啊这么样子呢？哎呀，没，都系碰着跟着啲咁嘅背。อันดอกมองไงกี่เสี้ยมหิบเบ้ Quay cái tại mỗi lần vẫn nôn tiền là lần chưa chim xe á, các bạn tàu đi á, các lần đi á, parking hàng có hồ chim đi á. Tua hi, I am going back to my place from downtown to cái bồi cầm na. Umang thằng cái address in thằng cái chuối hè. GPS umang thằng gari cái tol hi, ama Mustang này thì cái to cái bằng chết, ama black here, ama ya jama gari tham num cái sai ya chỉ Mustang một cái tham gì à chú. Ama gari cái tol mà yang ipel pin, umang thằng cái patu sang peta cái say yen, tua hi cái thằng nó pem cái về say yen, Donald Trump Tower hi yen, bor na gong hot le yen, abana downtown gong ba le ling gong kila yen, Millennium Park gong về say yen, tua hi I'm going back to home. Tôi cái lần đây ta yên không na minute ngã bố vặt ta tôi cái lần lệ bữa nay cái kiểu đi restaurant nào buka cái này bên hiền chỉ có hiền riêng cả chú cái chỉ buka này cái chỉ ya na ai bảo ngã tôi he cái kiểu ta bukan ni agak cia agak gel kelen deh bang tu ahe kan mi koma Chinese restaurant memang betul lah hingi aten Chinese restaurant ke hall kau deh